In today's video, we're talking about 9 different factors that will increase the value of a car accident or a personal injury claim. When somebody's injured and a claim is submitted to an insurance company, they are going to look at different variables. They're going to look at different factors to determine what that claim is worth. How much compensation is a person entitled to? There are certain things that will increase that in terms of dollar value, and there are some things that will decrease it in terms of dollar value. Today, we're going to analyze 9 factors that will increase that value and things that you want to be looking for if you've been involved in an accident case. So let's run through them. There are 9, so I won't spend a ton of time on each one of them. In reality, there are many, many more than 9, but these are the big ones. We'll talk about them today. The first and foremost is a person having a hard injury. A hard injury as opposed to a soft injury. Think of soft injuries like bruises, bumps, scrapes, minor burns, things that will happen routinely in an accident. A hard injury is something more substantial. So we're talking about torn ligaments, we're talking about injuries to neck or vertebrae, we're talking about broken bones, we're talking about much more substantial, much more severe injuries. Hard injuries will absolutely increase the value of a claim versus soft injuries, which may not. The other thing that's important is that if a person has been injured in a case, whether it's hard injuries or soft injuries, means that is when a person is actually treated by the right medical providers. We're talking about MDs, so medical doctors, we're talking about hospital care, other clinics. In other words, we want to be focused on a person getting treatment from people who are reputable. So people who have medical licenses, medical degrees, who specifically deal with these types of injuries. We do not want to send a person to somebody who does aromatherapy with natural essential oils, okay? It's not going to be considered to be a reputable source for healing an injury as a result of a car accident. But if you send them to the right providers, and this is something we help people do, make sure that they get reputable providers with a case manager and all of that, that will increase the value of the claim. The other thing that is important is we want to consider whether there was any permanent injuries. Permanent injury doesn't necessarily mean that you will never walk again, but it does mean that there is some lasting impacts to the injuries that are a result of the accident. So things like scars, things like weaknesses, stiffness, things like a loss of mobility. You have to remember, even minor bumps in an accident case can result in tightness around the neck or stiffness or a loss of a person's ability to be as mobile as they were before the accident. There are many tests, there are many different ways that you can come to that determination, but if there's any level of permanency to any of the injuries, that again is going to increase the value of the claim. The other thing we want to consider is whether a person is going to have lasting or even semi-permanent physical or emotional distress as a result of the accident. So some people, we have a lady in our office who was involved in an accident. She says she never wants to drive again. Well, that's very distressing. A person needs to drive to work, to school, to visit their family, and all sorts of different things. So if a person has that sort of mental distress, that's going to cause them substantial hardship. There's value to that. So if it is something that's directly attributable to the accident, that's going to increase the value of the claim. Similarly, we want to look at whether there was any shared fault. So insurance companies really like to look for this. They like to say, well, there was an accident, your driver was partially at fault, therefore we're going to reduce the value of the claim. So if we can show, using our accident reconstruction, using our analysis of the police report, that there was in fact no shared fault, the fault all belonged to the other person, the insurance company is not going to be able to devalue the claim, and we're going to be able to ask for an increase of the value of the claim. Also, any sort of major life disruptions that happen as a result of the accident can increase the value of the claim. So, for example, if a person can't work, if a person cannot attend important business meetings or business functions, if a person is missing their son or daughter's first recital or something like that, these are major life disruptions that were a direct result of the accident. And those are losses that in many ways are very difficult to compensate for. It might be impossible to compensate for missing your son's first baseball game, but it is still important. We want to compensate for that. We want to include that in the claim because that is technically a loss. So how do we do that? We go through and we make sure that we analyze and document all of those things to increase the value of that claim. In many cases, the opposing party, the other person who is involved in the accident, if they're at fault and we can show that they've got some other issues with credibility, or they've got some dishonesty or integrity issues, or they were doing something that was grossly negligent at the time, that can help us increase the value of our claim because that person is less sympathetic. So think of it this way. If a case is going to go in front of a jury, meaning we're not going to be able to settle this case out of court, we're going to take the case in front of a jury, and the opposing insurance company knows that the person that they insured, who the lawsuit is going to be against, is not sympathetic, will not present well in court, will not be somebody that a jury will sympathize with. That can increase the value of the claim. So that goes into our investigation. We want to look into that other person and see exactly what's going on with them so that we can show the insurance company that they need to settle with us, or they need to give us the amount of compensation that we're entitled to. Otherwise, we have no problem taking the case forward, going into extended litigation, and in other words, make it not worth the insurance company's time. That can increase the value of our claim. And also, when you are calm, when you are collected, when you're working with us, when you're working with us help navigate the system with the insurance companies, when you stay organized, when you stay on top of your material, when you're responding to your attorney's requests for your daily activity journal, all sorts of different things. We'll walk you through what we need, but when you are calm, when you're collected, when you are helping us help you, that will naturally increase the value of the claim. If you have no documentation, if you're missing in action, if you're not assisting your lawyer, it makes our job more difficult. So if you can agree to help us through some of this stuff, and we'll walk you through it. We're going to walk you through every step of the way. That's going to increase the value of your claim naturally. So keep that in mind. And then finally, you want to make sure that you have a litigation-ready attorney. You want to make sure you've got a team of aggressive attorneys who have experience in this area of law who will help you navigate through it. The insurance companies know who they're dealing with. They know when they see people who are lawyers with litigation experience who are ready to go in and have no fear in the courtroom. They know that. That will increase the value of your claim because they will not try to lowball you. If you have an attorney who handles this type of stuff, the insurance company will say, these guys are not afraid of going to trial. They will happily file a lawsuit. They will take this in front of a jury. They will be persuasive. They look good in front of a jury. They're going to be able to command an outcome. That's going to increase the value of the claim. So it is important that you do hire an attorney. Okay, I'm telling you, that's us. We do this stuff. We help people through these types of cases all the time. And so this is something where if you've been involved in an accident, these are the different ways that we can help to ensure that the compensation in your case meets your needs, that you are fully compensated, that you are not being strung along by the insurance companies or being undervalued. Okay, the insurance is meant to make you whole. We want to make sure that you get every bit of what was lost in the accident. So give us a call. We offer free case evaluations. We'll have you come into the office. We'll sit down. We'll review the facts of your case. We'll have a little bit of a discussion on what's going on in your life. We'll make sure that we have a good plan to get you back on your feet as quickly as possible. Give us a call. We really look forward to speaking with you soon. Thanks for watching.